is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review, a 5-star review, a 5-star review, a 5-star review, a 5-star review. I'm saying that for a reason, because once you leave us a 5-star review, everybody else will find out about us. We appreciate you, because share greatness. That's the motto for today on a good Monday. The bullpen tinkled that bad boy away over the weekend. We'll talk about whether or not I'm concerned or you're concerned. And then Falcons ended their preseason. What can we glean from it? Does it matter? We'll talk about that. And last but not least, and for the culture, it is time for a change in college football. And no, I'm not talking about NIL. We'll talk about all of that. But first, we got to talk about the Braves. They lose the series against the St. Louis Cardinals over the weekend. And just to kind of get like an overview of it, Nolan Arenado doesn't like the Braves. He seems to do really well in crunch time when no moments come about. And then, like I mentioned before, A.J. Minter, Kenley Jansen, in back-to-back games just gave it away.
Yeah, and also, you know who else does not like the Braves? Tyler McNeil, because it was really a walk wasn't good enough. You know, him walking it off with a walk wasn't good enough Saturday. He had to come back Sunday and do more damage to the Braves. So yeah, that was painful to kind of watch. But yeah, I really do have a little bit of a concern. I want to be careful. I don't want to get to be a worrywart there, but right. I am concerned when I look at the numbers, and Kenley Jansen, I believe, is second in the majors with blown saves.
Yes.
That's scary. That is really, now that's concerning to me, because, I mean, when he does it like no other, but when he blows it, I mean, he blows it at the worst possible times. So Dansby Swanson does what Dansby's supposed to do, right? Hits a clutch 3-run home run to put you in position to get yet another series.
2 strikes and 2 outs, by the way. That seems to be a theme. Like, what is that?
Like, that is what you call clutch. Man, talk about a good eye. Talk about a good eye. So yeah, he gets you in position to get yet another road win, but then you get into trouble with A.J. Minter, and now you're 0-10 in road rubber match games this season. That's the other thing that bothers me, because that is about closing. That is about finding a way to dig it out of the trenches and get it done. So no, those two things do concern me. And yeah, that bullpen definitely made me side-eye them.
You know what? I mean, I understand. I definitely understand your concern, but I know for me, you know, when you think about certain things and how this team has done this year, right? I know that was a big series. I know they should have gotten that series. They could have swept the series, you know, if you kind of look, you know, hindsight 2020, you're looking at certain situations that they were in and how close they were. But I can't make myself too concerned, because I know what A.J. Minter's been doing primarily this season, and he's been pretty doggone solid. And I know what Kenley Jansen, like you said, I know he's up there in the blown saves category, but, you know, he's come up big in moments when the Braves needed him throughout the season. But like you said, when you're talking about a relief pitcher, these guys are going to go through those moments, right? Go through these moments. And I think that Brian Snitker is a guy that's going to stick with those guys when those moments come up in the postseason. And I, you know what? I'm okay with that, because, you know, you have a guy, just in case things get too out of whack from a save standpoint, in Raisel Iglesias. I like what I've seen when he's come into the fray. And, you know, if you have an option, right? You know, you can go to church. You can go to church whenever you want to with Raisel Iglesias if the things get too crazy. But overall, I think I'll be fine.
Yeah, so it's like every time I get excited, then I'm thinking,
like, no,
then I'm triggered. So, but no, I agree with you. That's why I said I'm a little worried, but I don't want to get. I'm definitely not panicked. Definitely not.
Exactly.
Braves are a long way from panic. It's just would have been nice, like you said, you get right there and you could have won the series, and you could have actually swept the series. Would have been nice. have pulled that off.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And when you think about, other things that came out of this series as well, Ronald Acuna did not play in back-to-back games. Braves are off tonight as well, so that's about 3 consecutive days of rest. We'll talk about the level of concern there, but first, T, tell the folks about what's going on at betonline.net.
Well, everybody, we are T minus 5 days away from the season opener for Georgia. They're taking on Oregon in the
Ooh,
Chick-fil-A Challenge. And
Dan
listen,
Lanning returns.
line, I know, right, the return of Dan Lanning. And the line is
Whatever
7,
that means.
right, whatever that means. But what you guys are interested in knowing about is what it means for them to be the 17-point favorite for this game, right? And so if you
Ooh.
want to see if that line moves or how that line moves this week, you need to check it out on betonline.net because that's your resource for scores and all sorts of info to put you in position to bet the right way. Now, that can be for college football, that can be for the NFL, NBA, MLB, but also you look at those niche sports like MMA or golf, you can get information there as well. And what I like is the fact that they have podcasts for those of us who might be beginners in the whole betting space. They'll give you all the information, all the tools and tips that you need so that you can bet accordingly. So again, after you take a listen and a look at ATL Day Ones, your next stop should be betonline.net. You can definitely get to them on your laptop or even on your mobile device. Again, that is betonline.net because that is where the game starts.
Yes, indeed. And where the game did not start for Ronald Acuna over the weekend because, like, he played in the game Friday. You saw a little bit of issues there on Friday evening, and then Saturday and Sunday they sat him to give him some rest. And I think one of the things that when you talk about listen to Ronald Acuna speaking through an interpreter after those games during the interview, he talked about how he had intense pain over the past couple of days.
Yeah.
Now that could be very alarming because when a lot was made about the process in which the Braves kind of sped him up a little bit, and he came back a little bit before they had originally planned because he was doing so well to start off when he came back. But I think that the thing about with those ACL injuries, you talk about the year, coming back after that year date, and you just really don't. A guy like Ronald Acuna, you really don't expect him to kind of be normal and when it comes to a rehabilitation standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So the team doctors don't seem to be concerned. So I'm not necessarily concerned because this is all within that same time frame. But I think just with him being such a great player, I think it's just a matter of you just really saying, okay, he's a really great player, so he's going to be great at doing rehab. So he should be ahead of everyone else in that category as well. And I don't think that's a fair expectation.
Yeah, it's not. And it's a tough thing because it makes me a little bit concerned in the fact that Brian Snitker said, hey, Acuna Jr. is just going to have to play through it. The pain is there. It's been there for a while. He's just going to have to play through the season. And listen, we know Acuna Jr. is going to tough it out, and he'll do everything that he can to put the Braves back in position to make a serious run in the postseason. But when you hear that, it's really scary because you've also seen where when an individual comes back, when an athlete comes back too soon and they're giving it all they've got and the body's just not ready, that could put them in position to maybe aggravate that injury again or maybe sustain another one. So that's
Right.
kind of where I'm at right now. Like, wow, I hope that they're able to, in a metered way, kind of give him the space that he needs here and there. I understand what Snit's saying. I can respect it and appreciate it, but I hope there are opportunities maybe in softer parts of their schedule where they're able to give him some time off. But what does encourage me is in the fact, and I'm kind of sneaking ahead to our next question, so I'm just going to tell you right away because it's the
Right.
positive from the weekend series, but also from the game last night, is that you continue to see consistency at the plate from a Michael Harris II. So at
Yes.
least where you're not getting it from Acuna Jr. maybe to the level that you want, you got Michael Harris II. To me, that was one of the most positives from this, most positive takeaways, going 4 for 4 last night. And B, Ozzie Albies is starting a rehab assignment this
Yes.
week.
Yes, no, that's the thing that you kind of keep, that's the positive, right? That's the thing that you kind of look for. Like, all right, because we've been kind of hitting that, B's making his way back, and then now to get the confirmation that he is starting the rehab assignment, and though that's the type of bat you want back in this lineup, right? If you're gonna have Ronald Acuna missing some time from here and there, so, and we know that Dansby has been stepping in at that leadoff spot with over the weekend with Ronald Acuna not being in there. He's been playing clutch. I love what I've been seeing from Travis d'Arnaud.
Yes.
Travis like, man, don't forget about me. I can still play. So because it's so many. You talk about the rookies so much with Vaughn Grissom and Michael Harris, like you mentioned. We can't forget about the guys that that were catalysts last year for this World Series team. So, and I think these guys are still here. So I think it's going to be a collective effort, when and if Ronald Acuna misses some time. But I think that's definitely a positive for sure. Another one, I think that when you think about what it is, that can have a positive takeaway is just the collective effort. Like I mentioned, is for bringing everybody coming together and saying, you know what, even though Ronald's going to be out, we still have to, do our thing. And that's what you want to see from that pitching staff. Those guys, Jake Odorizzi had a no-hitter going into the 6th inning. You want to see him continue to do those things like that, because we know what time it is once that postseason comes around. That rotation is going to shrink, and more than likely he might be the odd man out. But you definitely want him to stick around and be pitching like that so you can have some long relief, just in case that's needed in the postseason. So I'm definitely kind of excited what to expect from the Braves going forward. Like I mentioned, they are out tonight, and they will be starting tomorrow against the Colorado Rockies at the beginning of a six-game homestand. Excuse me. And hey, these are the type of series that we talk about. They have to get a win.
Yes. And fortunately, the Mets lost last night, so at least that kind of levels things out to keep the Braves just 3 games back. But speaking of odd men out, we're going to talk on the other side about some guys who may potentially be odd men out come Tuesday at 4 p.m. We're going to break down and download on Falcons Jaguars and talk to you guys a little bit about who we think made the cut and made the case to make the cut, and maybe who will be the odd man out. We'll talk to you about it on the other side. This is ATL. Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra, and that is Jarvis, and we are the dynamic duo that keeps you guys coming back to every platform where you download your podcast and giving us 5-star reviews. But we're not going to get too ahead of ourselves, and we're not going to get the big heads, because we are still humble and appreciative for every single thing you do.
I'm not.
Okay, that makes one of us. So it kind of blows up the whole idea of a dynamic duo. No, it's flying solo on me already, y'all. This is not a good way to start the segment. But you know what it is? What's great is when you guys come back in spite of, and because of, all at the same time. ATL Day Ones, even on the Locked On Sports Network on YouTube. We appreciate you guys because you keep getting us closer and closer and closer to 4,000 subscribers. Yes. Man, that is utterly and completely amazing. And you know what else I was going to say was amazing for me? It was actually pretty exciting, was watching that final preseason game for Falcons Jaguars. I like the fire. I like the fire.
It was cool.
Now, I will admit, my favorite part of the whole experience was being introduced to Coach Liam Smith at the podium post game. The 2-year-old took the show. He took over the show.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it was such a great moment. But anywho, it's always easier to have those types of moments after a win, regardless of if it's in preseason or not. So Jarvis, I'm excited about what I saw for the most part. How about you? What were some of the takeaways? Even if there are some not so good takeaways, but what were some of the good takeaways for you from Saturday's game?
Yeah, just overall, I think that, a lot of times, a lot of the narratives, the hot take narratives, as if I can use the Arthur Smith quote, that go around during this time of the year is that preseason don't matter. And I'm just sitting there watching the game and just watching how those guys like Derek Tangelo and Nick Thurman and Quentin Bell out there just going absolutely crazy out there trying to earn a roster spot. And that's cool to see. That's dope to see. As a guy who couldn't make it to the NFL, or who didn't smell a practice in the NFL, a guy who, had a workout to try to go into the NFL. That is a dope thing to see. Guys like that knowing good and well, like, hey, this is my chance. This is my shot to make this team, and I'm going to try to take full advantage of it. And to see it, I think it was just super cool to see those guys out there just doing that absolute thing. I absolutely love that. It was just really dope to see.
Yeah, and I did as well. I'm going to get back to some of those like Tangelo in a minute, so I want to hold that thought from you because I don't want to go too far ahead. But one of my positive takeaways, since we talked a little bit about defense, I want to talk about on offense, because when you get out there and you're kind of given a little bit more leeway in game 3 versus game 2, and I'm talking Desmond Ritter, they're throwing a little bit more at you. They're opening up the playbook a little bit more, and you have an interception. I really like the poise. And and I like the selective amnesia. Forget about that series, get back out there and show us what you're worth. I think that shows so much growth in just a short period of time. And that goes back to something you and I were talking about last week, where Arthur Smith knew he could go at him. He knew he could just tell Desmond Ritter straight, no chaser, what he was doing wrong, and a little bit of what he was doing well, but mostly getting at him about, hey, this is what needs to be done. And then Desmond Ritter really receiving that message. And I feel like we saw a little bit of that produce itself in game 3. So yeah, he was my guy where I was like, yeah, that's what you want to see in the individual who is fighting to show you that at some point this season, which most people expect, that at some point this season, he may take over the reins as QB1. He showed you a little bit about what he could be if and when he's given that role. So when I think about that, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, that's what we talked about, that thing where Arthur Smith talk about certain things transferring, right, from what you see in practice and all that thing into the game, and then that poise, right? Because we were really impressed while we were out there and got a chance to speak to in rookie OTAs when we got a chance to talk with Desmond Ritter. We were just kind of taken aback, like, oh my God, this dude is just answering each question, boom, 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 and he didn't sound like a rookie. He almost sounded like a veteran in how he was just handling the media and how he was speaking to certain things when it comes to being a quarterback in the NFL, when he necessarily hasn't been a quarterback in the NFL just yet. So I think that those are the type of things that you like to see, right? Like the impressions that you get from him, you want to see those things carry over to the field. And I think that you made an excellent point. Like, that's exactly what he did. Like, yeah, I may have messed up on the pick, but yeah, I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to come back and, get right and go on a 15 play drive and take off 9 minutes off the clock and get my defense a rest so they can come back out, start balling, and give me the ball back and try to go score again. I think that that type of stuff spreads like wildfire, just like negativity and all this and bad turnovers can spread like wildfire. He turned it into a positive, and I think that it kind of carried itself throughout the entire game.
It did. It really, really did. And I think, again, it was a sneak peek into what we could possibly see in the fall. Now, listen, the one thing you all never have to get a sneak peek into, because we tell you about it each and every day, and we get excited telling you about it each and every day, is Coffee AM.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Take me a little sip of this Coffee AM, because you know what I'm sipping on today? I'm going to go, I had to go international on these folks, T. Okay. Sumatra Black Satin. It just sounds amazing, right? See her reaction? That's what I do every time I take a sip of Coffee AM, because, the website, I'm going to tell you the website, then I'm going to continue to tell you why. CoffeeAM.com/locked on. Go to the website right now. And just stick around. I'm going to give you a nice little code. You can get your little change off. But finish talking about Sumatra Black Satin, because it is something that it gets my soul going in the morning, T, because, I get up early, I get my workout on, and then, once I come back, I may be feeling a little bit tired because, I be getting it in, doing my thing. You know what that pick me up? I'm going straight to my cabinet, and I'm going to go get Coffee AM, because it is the best small batch coffee roaster in the entire country, and they got everything that you need, whether it be coffee, get tea, got the gift sets and everything, and they just have everything you need if you want to get your coffee on. And if you don't like coffee, you got some good tea, because tea, she be on the tea.
Yes.
Imagine that concept. So, all right, now that you're ready to go buy and get this Coffee AM, I got a coupon code for you. Go to the coupon code box, coffeeam.com/locked locked on, and go ahead and put in the code locked on. You're going to get 15% off your first purchase of all coffee, teas, and gift sets. Coffeeam.com/locked on. Drop in the coupon code box locked on. You're going to get 15% off. Go there right after the show.
Yes. And we'll go from talking about what you can do with the code locked on to who might get locked up, as in the 53-man roster. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock is the deadline for all NFL teams to trim their roster. And it's a tough one. This is going to be a tough one because now you're going literally from 80 to 53. And that last game, that game 3, was the final shot for some players to make the case to stay with the team. So, Jarvis, give me maybe one guy on offense and maybe one guy on defense who you felt like in that final game they made the case for themselves.
I think that offensively, I think it got to be Frank Darby, because I know that, he's a guy that on special teams was flying down there, making a tackle. You saw that as a guy who's a fringe guy, you have to be able to play special teams. You got to take it seriously. And I think that he showed that, and he caught a nice, beautiful deep ball thrown to him by Desmond Ridder. He snatched that bad boy right out the air. He was able to beat man coverage. That's what you want to see from a wide receiver in the NFL, and he was able to do that. So I think that he made a solid case, to at least be in the conversations for, like, okay, we drafted this guy. We know that he's a fun guy to have on the team. We know that, but at the end of the day, you're here to play football. So it was good to see him get some plays then. And then defensively, I got to go with Quentin Bell. And I know notice I'm talking about guys playing special teams, not necessarily for, starting on defense, but he made a case. Like, you go out there and block a punt, I think that you definitely make a case for, being on this squad. And we know your boy Marquise is gonna be pounding the table. Like, I need Quentin and I need Frank if we're gonna be great. So yes, those are guys that definitely. Those guys are definitely the guys that stood out for me.
Yeah, no, and we love Marquise on this show, so I can just imagine that he was so pleased, sort of like Papa or Uncle or whatever.
Proud Papa.
He did that. Now, for me, it's interesting because I will agree, by the way, on both of those choices, and I'll just add Kaderil Hodge to the mix on offense. I really do think, and for me, Jarvis, it wasn't even just about game 3. I think you'd agree that it was everything that we saw in camp and just the continued progress through all 3 of those preseason games. I definitely believe he made the case for himself. Also, I would say, going back to one of your calls earlier in terms of what you liked that you saw Saturday, I would say Derek Tangelo definitely made a case for himself. And one of the reasons I think so as well, even if just by default, I believe, unfortunately, when we talk about making the cut, which we'll get into right now real quick, I don't think Marlon Davidson is necessarily going to get cut, but I do think he's probably going to be put on that IR, and that might be his
injury
way out.
Settlement may be coming.
There you go. I don't even have
prime
to
candidate.
There you go. And that would give Derek Tangelo that opportunity to prove himself, because they'll potentially need one more guy. That said, who might actually get the cut? Who might actually be released tomorrow, in your opinion? Just maybe one guy.
You know what?
I know who you say. I think we all feel that. Okay, anybody who's covered this beat, but go ahead.
Okay. Jalen Mayfield. I gotta go ahead and say it, T.
Okay,
Jalen Mayfield. I know you probably got an idea who you probably think I was about to say, but Jalen Mayfield is a guy, and Marlon Davidson as well. I think that's a good candidate as well. But Jalen Mayfield, when you think about what, the being able to move forward on this team and admit to your mistakes, right? Arthur Smith admitted to his mistake of not playing his starters in the first year. He played his starters this year and admitted it. Such like, that probably wasn't a good idea. Let me go. And I don't know how much they had an effect on us against the Eagles, but I will be playing my starters this year. Get it. Understand. The people who make mistakes, they admit to them and they learn from them. And you know what I'm saying? So I think that Jalen Mayfield, go and cut bait, because at the end of the day, you brought in Elijah Wilkinson, who came in and took the spot and earned it. We talked to him about that process, and I think he's done a solid job in the preseason. And Justin Schaefer, I think he looks solid. I think there's promise
Yes.
there.
Yes.
There's some promise there. There's something there at that left guard spot. And I think if you're going to talk about developing a left guard potentially for the future, Schaefer has more promise than Jalen Mayfield, and I'm okay with saying that. I don't, whatever anybody else says, I don't care. But I can sit up here and say that I trust Justin Schaefer from a progression standpoint versus Jalen Mayfield. I don't see Jalen Mayfield getting any better, right now. So yeah, Jalen Mayfield will be my cut. Probably won't happen because, for a lot of reasons, but I think that's the guy that I feel that hasn't earned a roster spot.
I can agree with that one. And yeah, I called out Justin Schaefer a long time ago and said,
Yes, you
watch
did.
him. I do believe it may be a project, but I believe it'll be a project that'll pay off, pay dividends in the end. Because unfortunately for him, he had to get shifted a lot when he was
Right.
playing for Georgia. So maybe he didn't get that opportunity to maybe become a master of one as opposed to a jack of all trades, right?
Yes,
But
he
given
did.
the right opportunity to become that master, he could be that guy. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, don't know if he will get the cut, but maybe he should get the cut in a Jalen
Yes.
Mayfield. Yeah, so no, I absolutely agree with you on that one. And I'll be honest. As tough as this one is, I thought you were going to say Kadri Allison because
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
yeah,
That's a
that
good one.
and that's the
Yeah,
reason I said
that's a good one, T.
we've all been waiting. But when you talk about maybe 100, I believe it was something crazy like either 158 touches or 158 yards. Forgive me for
Mhm.
forgetting. Either way, that's not a good look because
Right.
if a running back is supposed to get, even if it's running back by committee, and you're supposed to get 15 to 20 touches, at this point in your career, it shouldn't be 158 touches. If that's what it was, that stat that I can remember, but it
Right.
darn sure shouldn't be 158 yards. So that's the person where I would not be shocked if he does not make the cut tomorrow. But speaking of that, when we talk about guys who can't make the cut, we just don't understand why they can't make the cut in the SEC. But we'll talk about it on the other side in fourth.
Final segment of ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to thank you for rocking with us throughout the entire show. You guys have been rocking with us on YouTube and on all the audio platforms. We ask that you continue to do so because we are almost over 3,400 subscribers. Well on our way to 4,000. We appreciate you guys. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that like button as well. We appreciate that instantaneous feedback. Yeah, you like that word, don't you? But and wherever you download your podcast, make sure you give us a 5-star review. We'll really appreciate that as well. But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, the culture, and entertainment. Sometimes whatever we want to talk about. That's because that's how we get down on this particular show. Now, today is no different because we all know about Sylvester Croom. Well, you may not know about Sylvester Croom. I'm not going to make that assumption. He was the black head coach who was hired for Mississippi State in the SEC, and now we sit here. I think we're going into the third year where there is no black head coach in the SEC, and they are the only Power 5 conference that doesn't have any black head coaches in it. And I think that one of the things that, it was an interesting article, article is in ESPN that it talked about, like, it was just interesting, like the situation that, Sylvester Croom took over, right? They had won 8 games in the previous 3 years when
Yes.
Sylvester Croom took over, and he ended up going 8-5 and had a good season. And that season afterward, he had a bad season and he was out and never got a chance to get a head coaching job again. T,
Mhm.
why is that the case?
Yeah, and that to me, it kind of speaks to something that is a little bit more, how do I say, something that's a bigger issue than just the SEC, but we'll talk about it in terms of the SEC. Somebody
Right,
said something to me this morning that I thought was very interesting, Jarvis, and I think it kind of speaks to what's happening in the SEC, right?
right.
So we were
Mm-hmm.
talking. There was a documentary or just like a feature story on Marcus Freeman, and
Oh,
talking about
yes.
the fact that he's just taken over at Notre Dame and what a great opportunity. And I thought to myself, yeah, it'll be great, except if he doesn't win in that first year or two, how much of an opportunity will he really get? And
Right.
that's where the challenge is. Either one of two things. Either oftentimes that African American coach is put in situations where he's not set up to succeed, right? He's going into a situation where it's a losing program that can't recruit, maybe similar to a Vanderbilt and a James Franklin, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how are you ever going to do anything at Vanderbilt in the
Right.
SEC? That's
Mm-hmm.
a very, very tall order. And I feel like sometimes that those opportunities aren't coming because, of course, you still do have to battle that good old boys network. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest.
Yep.
So if that network says, hey, I'm in, then that network is going to pull up everyone in their network. So at some point, you've got to have someone who's in a power position, maybe your commissioner, or your conference commissioner, who says that we're going to make a concerted effort. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily say it has to be akin to the Rooney Rule per se, but
Right.
maybe something in that direction where you start actually acknowledging that it's an issue, kind of taking accountability for it, and then seeing how can you write that. And that could be something like this, Jarvis. The opportunities like we see with Marquise Williams. Okay, I'm going to go to
Right.
the NFL, how he was in a basically a fellows program, or our guy Harry Douglas. That's how you start individuals who are interested in going up the coaching tree and getting onto somebody's coaching tree. Makes perfect sense. Harry played under Arthur Smith. Why wouldn't he come and start his coaching career if that's where he intends to go? Why wouldn't he come and start that here? He also played for the Falcons. Perfect place for him to start. I am sure there are some former SEC standouts who are very interested in getting coaching opportunities that would be willing to start off as the running backs coach or the special teams coach, and then moving up until they're the coordinator, and then they become the assistant coach, and then are groomed for head coach. But somebody somewhere within the SEC has got to acknowledge that it's a challenge, because you're
Right.
the only one out of the Power Five that doesn't have an African American head coach. Haven't had one in 3 years, and we could probably count on one hand without all fingers how many there were between Sylvester Croom and that African
Yeah.
American coach.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, to me, herein lies that's an institutional issue that somehow the SEC will need to address.
Yeah, and it's good that the coach who has dominated is in the SEC for the past what however long Nick Saban touched down in Alabama, and when you think about what he's been able to do and bringing his assistants, and kind of like he's like the rehab facility for former head coaches who get fired, right? And Mike Locksley was a guy that was able to take advantage of that, right? He got fired from New Mexico. He went up to Maryland to be the OC, came
Hmm.
down, under Lane Kiffin, and worked as an analyst, and thankfully Loxley, had made enough money as a head coach and a coordinator where he can take that position to kind of take a step back and kind of breathe and kind of look at reassess things.
Yes.
He ended up going to go get the head coaching job at Maryland, and
Hmm.
that's the thing that we really don't see as well, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, the guys may get an opportunity, and it may be a dumpster fire, and they end up getting fired, and they never get a chance to get it again. That's what happened to
Yeah.
Kroom.
Yeah.
That's what essentially, what oh my God, the guy that got hired from Strong, who was
Hmm.
Charlie Strong, who was
For
at
Charlie Strong,
Texas.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so he's kind of bounced around ever since he
Hmm.
getting fired from Texas. So those are the type of things that you want to see.
Yeah.
Though a guy like Nick Saban standing up, not only standing up and speaking out, but
Hmm.
giving guys, those minorities coaches, those opportunities once they get, if they do get fired, so they can be in line to get another job. And I think the Minority Coaches Association is a good start. Mike
Yes.
Locksley is a part of that as well. And Marcus Freeman, like you mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
he's part of that also.
Yes.
So I think that those are some of the things that can be put in place, and not to just,
Hmm.
talk about the issue, but have
Yes.
things in place to be able to do something about it. And I think that was one of the things that Kroom said in the article that I thought that was profound. Like, right, we could talk about the
Yes.
issues all day, but
Sure.
what are we actually going to do about it?
And that's why I pointed to some of those initiatives that the NFL has put in place. We even know
Yes.
about a forum that comes here to Atlanta every year, where you're talking about some of your power players, if you will, and some who are former power players, because Coach Caldwell comes here just about every year,
Yes.
former head coach for the Colts, and participates in that particular symposium. So yeah, having those initiatives in place, it makes a difference, because then you can get those minority coaches in front of the power players who maybe for whatever reason they just weren't in the space to influence them, but once they're put in that space they can make an impression. And then, like you said, if they don't make an impression that first go round, that puts them in position to keep a head coaching gig, and they get terminated,
Right.
then let's see them get second chances like others.
Yes, indeed. And like I said, you're not looking for a handout, but give the guys who are in those space has the experience. And a lot of times you're talking about guys who played in the NFL as well. Like a lot of times that gives you like a free pass right for a job. And you're talking about Terrell Buckley. He's thankfully he was at Ole Miss as a position coach, for quite some time and was able to, be successful there and, got passed over for a defense coordinator spot. Now he has the opportunity to be a head coach in the XFL. So those are the type of things that if you're not getting it where you are, if you do get that opportunity, may have to take a chance. And I think that he's absolutely taking advantage of that. But taking a chance that shouldn't be taken, T, is taking the alligator to a splash pad. Because I know I take my babies, from time to time to a little splash pad. That's most times where you take your little kids to. If you're not really trying to get them into the pool and all that stuff, but you want to just get them out to get them wet, have a little fun. But I'm just gonna call him Sir. This Sir decided to bring an alligator to a splash pad. Now it is a comfort animal. He's dealing with cancer and everything like that. So he has a comfort pet. Legally a comfort pet. So he had the alligator with him where most of the places where he goes. But T, like you can find another place outside of a splash pad to take your alligator.
Right. I'm like the alligator's natural splash pad is a swamp.
Yes.
Okay, that's where you want to take the alligator.
Yes.
Not to
take them to familiar places.
Right, not to your natural splash pad.
You don't want to make them hungry by take them around kids.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, he was probably looking at this like this is hunting season.
Ooh, it's turning around. All of a sudden got hungry for some reason.
Yes. It was, and to see the picture of it. I mean, it was scary. It was being walked like it was a dog. And I'm thinking to myself, like, no, there is a kid a couple feet away from you. So whoever thought that was a good idea, whatever adult thought that was a good idea, not so much, not so much. But you know what is a good idea for you guys to always come and check us out at ATL Day One's, your first stop always and every day on Locked On Sports Atlanta Network. But after you stop by this show, make sure you check out Hitting Hard with John Chuckery because that is always loads of fun. So again, you guys, we appreciate you. Make sure that you make good choices when it comes to where you take your interesting and different kind of pets. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Y'all come back now, you hear?